Hello, Gene Schwimmer here, and welcome to me. And today we're going to stay exactly where we were in the last video. The last video we went to Hollywood. And what were we doing in Hollywood? Well, it seems that our liberal friends who always have to be angry about something, which means they always have to find something new to be angry about after they get tired of being angry over the last thing they were angry about, or people no longer pay attention to them, which I don't anyhow, not a whole lot of attention. This was about two things. Number one, something called whitewashing, which is the casting of ethnic roles with white people, especially white males. I was talking about Hellboy, a movie called Hellboy. There's a character, a villain, who is Asian, I suppose, in the comic strip, and in order to cast a certain actor who is not Asian, they made the character Occidental and put this actor in the role. The actor resigned because he didn't think that was right, and I went through a whole explanation of how, for instance, in The Godfather, Marlon Brando did such a wonderful portrayal of Mafia Don, an Italian Mafia Don, even though he is not Italian at all. He's German and I think Irish. But the point was that there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm back on that subject today, as well as another one, which is the political correctness that we see in movies these days, which make me not want to watch them. I'm going to talk about that too, and the reason I'm talking about them again is because of a couple new items that came up. So let's put up this first one here, this headline here. Disney's Aladdin remake casts white actor and the Twitterverse isn't happy. They're making a live-action movie version of an animated movie from the 1990s. They created a new character, a prince, and he's not Arab. So the Twitterverse, which is just people tweeting a lot, are angry about that. Here's one tweet. I'll put this tweet up here if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the tweet is up there, and one person, this is, I get Daddy Sock Monkey. Okay, that's his known, the Twitter. He says, like serious talk here, fellow white people, it's okay to not be in literally everything. Seriously, it's fine. All right, well, let's go back to what I showed yesterday from the Avengers, the Nick Fury character. Nick Fury is the head of the fictional secret organization S.H.I.E.L.D. And as I showed yesterday, the original character in the comic book is, graphic novel, because adults don't want to be seen reading comic books, so they still read them, but they call them graphic novels. I talked about how they recast that role. They made Nick Fury, who is white in the comics, they made him into a black person, which is fine, I guess, if you want to do that. As I said before, it gets a little tedious when you do this all the time. But if that's okay, then what's wrong with doing the opposite? They're not even changing a black role to a white role. They created a whole new role. But this is what I'm talking about in terms of hypocrisy. So I think our liberal friends should be honest of what they're really trying to do. And it's not about matching the ethnicity of an actor to the ethnicity of a character. It's just getting more minorities into films, which again is fine, but it gets tedious when it becomes a rule that every film you have to find a way to get a minority into the film. And I can say, in all fairness, doing that to Aladdin the other way around, I don't think they necessarily had to do that either. But I think it's hypocritical to criticize it when you're creating a role, especially to put a white person in that role. That's wrong, but it's okay to create a black role just to get a black person into a movie or a TV show, whatever it is. So that's all I'm pointing out. I'll say no more about that, but go on to the political correctness phenomenon that I've been noticing, and I've been talking about how liberals have to work their politics into their movies and actually do movies with political themes that make liberals happy, I guess, that they're doing the movies, but the movies themselves aren't doing so well. I mean, how many movies have there been starring George Clooney with a liberal theme and the movie bombs, even with George Clooney in it? But what I'm talking about today is there's a new Star Trek series coming out, Star Trek Discovery, and, well, I'll just put up the headline here. And as I always do, just to remind you, I always link to the article from which I'm getting these headlines and the information that I'm discussing. I put them in the description below the video, so if you want to look at them, you could go look at them, read the article, get the whole story. So I'll just read the quote here. Star Trek Discovery will continue the venerated sci-fi tradition of using a fantastic setting to tackle real-world issues, only in a bigger way than any Trek series has done before. Now, I can't say I'm a die-hard Star Trek fan. I watched the first series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and all the original actors. I really haven't watched any of the subsequent series. Maybe the odd show here and there. They seem to get worse with each year, except I did like the very last one where it's the early days of the Federation or whatever. Anyways, what I was driving at was that in that original series, they would touch on something like race relations or overpopulation, but they did it in a very broad way, and they talked about these kind of broad subjects. Liberals were frightened about overpopulation in those days, so there was an episode about that. There was the famous episode with Frank Gorshin where you have one alien chasing another alien, and they both have half their faces black and half their faces white. And William Shatner says, well, what is the problem? I mean, you're both the same. And at the very end, the big punchline is the alien says, well, no, he's black on his left side, I'm black on my right side, or vice versa. I don't remember. You can look it up, go watch the episode, you'll probably enjoy it. But the point I'm making yet, these are very general subjects that anybody could agree on. Who's going to disagree with that? But this time, what they say about doing this in a bigger way than the original way is they're going to start tackling current events. And what these current events are, it's basically the Trump administration. They're going to use Star Trek, a science fiction series, to go after Donald Trump and also to hit on liberals' favorite themes. I'll put this quote up here. The upcoming CBS all-access drama tells the serialized story of a war between the United Federation of Planets and the Klingon Empire. In Discovery, war breaks out, and the Klingons leading the charge have some ideological ideas inspired by the 2016 electoral divide. In other words, they're going to replay themes from the 2016 election. I guess they're still mad that Trump... Well, what's going to happen is that the Klingons are going to be the bad guys, I guess, and they're going to have... Or maybe they'll turn out to be good guys, recasting the Klingons as good guys. But the main thing is that these ideas that the Klingons have, they're going to be wrong. They're going to be Trump's ideas, and they're going to be wrong. In the series, I mean, not in real life. Though you may disagree if you're one of my liberal friends watching this. Anyways, let's go on. Another quote here. The allegory, this is Aaron Harberts. He's the showrunner, the head guy, shepherding this new version of Star Trek. So, quote, the allegory is that we really started working on this show in earnest around the time the election was happening. The Klingons are going to help us really look at certain sides of ourselves and our country. Isolationism is a big theme. Racial purity is a big theme. In other words, the things that liberals like to talk about. And what they're getting at here, though, unlike Star Trek, the original series, is that, as I just said, they talked about that in general terms, so general that there was really nothing that anybody could disagree with. But now, what I think they're going to do, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but somebody is going to have to tell me whether I'm proven right or wrong, because I have no intention of watching the series. I'll get to that too. But they're going to say, for instance, isolationism is a big theme. And what they're going to hint at, or maybe say broadly or imply, is that Donald Trump is an isolationist. All of his supporters are isolationists, and isolationism is wrong, and therefore Trump and his supporters are bad. He says right there, the fact that they were preparing the show during the 2016 election, that it has something to do with the way they're doing the series. So let's see here. Isolationism is a big theme. Racial purity is a big theme. The Klingons are not the enemy, but they do have a different view of things. Now, there's a big change because, well, what they're trying to get to, I think, is this liberal idea that there is no absolute right or wrong. The Klingons are just misunderstood or whatever, and they have a different point of view, completely unlike the first season where the Klingons were the enemy. I can just see this coming. What they're going to probably do is they have this war between the Klingons and the Federation, and they're going to somehow have it turn out to have been a misunderstanding, and war is bad, war is terrible, you should just understand these enemies, and you'll find out that they're really not enemies. Just like Barack Obama making a deal with Iran and saying, well, we just have to understand them, they're just different, we can make a deal with them and they will keep the agreement. This liberal naivety that I will never understand. But that's obviously what's going to happen here. And then we have, it raises big questions. Should we let people in? So now we're talking about immigration. We're talking about Donald Trump's immigration policies. So this government policy is going to be portrayed on the show. And you can predict this one too, that these Klingons are misunderstood. They should let them into the Federation. I guess they want to immigrate to the Federation. They should do it. Now, I think a better, more relevant and more accurate portrayal would be that they let all these Klingons in and then they start killing Federation citizens, and they start preaching an extreme ideology, and boy, did the Federation make a mistake by letting these people in. I am not going to hold my breath waiting for that to happen. I think it's just going to be the opposite, and it's going to be their way of saying that Trump is xenophobe, his immigration policies are wrong, we should just have open borders and let everybody in. There's also the question of, just because you reach your hand out to someone, do they have to take it? I guess that means because we want to bring Western culture to these less developed third world countries and the Middle East, where you have people stuck in the 7th century wanting to kill each other. And you could make a point, actually, that maybe that's not a good idea. If they don't want to accept our culture, you shouldn't try to change them. Not because it's wrong, not because our culture isn't better, but because, well, they're stubborn cusses and they're just not going to accept it. So why bother? You can't change them. But I think I can kind of predict that what this Star Trek is going to say or try to say or imply or state, that the Klingon culture is equivalent, just as good as the Federation culture, whatever those two cultures may be. I have no idea, except that the Federation culture, if I understand this series right, is very liberal. But they're going to imply that all cultures in the real world are equivalent, and again, Donald Trump and all of his supporters are xenophobes, and that's going to be their point. And then we get to another point they're going to be making. Quote, the thing about the war, this would be the fictional war between the Federation and the Klingon Empire, the thing about the war is it takes Starfleet and the Federation and forces them to examine their ideas and ethical rules of conflict and conduct. It provides a backdrop to how we want to be as a society, and that analysis and self-reflection is new for Trek. Yeah, it's new, and as I said, it's just so blatantly liberal. That's what it is. This is what I mean by political correctness. Now, the idea of a war is not to win the war. No, it's much more subtle and complicated than that. You can never have people that are just plain bad attacking you, and we're the good guys. And the democracies, which is the Federation, is a democracy, my understanding. But in the real world, sometimes democracies have to defend themselves against tyrannies and other forms of government and cultures that are just plain wrong, and they're evil, and they want to get us, and we're defending ourselves. But according to this, they're going to make the point that it's much more subtle, and when we're at war, the idea is not to win the war, it's to examine ourselves and to ask ourselves a favorite liberal theme: what have we done wrong? Not what is the other side, the people that are attacking us, doing wrong, but, or what have they done wrong, and could it be just that they're just plain bad? No, it's what did we do wrong? If there's a war between us and any other civilization, it has to be our fault, because everything can be solved by discussion. That's what they believe, and that's what the show is going to be, and that's why I'm not going to watch it. One reason is because I disagree with a lot of these views, but the other point is I don't care about Hollywood actors' views and Hollywood script writers and producers' views, and I really resent the insertion of their political views into everything they do, into a science fiction series now. It makes me not want to watch them. I wish them all the luck in the world. I understand that they showed the preview at a comic convention and the crowd was excited and they loved it, and more power to them. But I won't be surprised if the series doesn't do well, but it probably will. But they'll have to do it without me. They're going to have to succeed on their own. And with those happy wishes for good luck and a successful series without me, that's it for today. And I will see everybody as soon as I have time to make another video. And that's it. Bye.
You got plan, darling?
I always got plan. They don't ever work, but I always got one.